Hi, everybody. It's Kelly Russell, the Rock Your Joy Coach. Thank you so much for being here with me. I'm so happy to be talking to you. I just love doing these lives. And my topic for tonight, which is something that's pretty close to my heart, although I will say that I kind of have some resistance about it too, is um, self sabotage. Resist your resistance. And, I wanted to talk about this. I'm a very big believer in teaching about whatever I'm trying to learn about or whatever I have struggled with. And if I have found something that's been really helpful to me, I want to pass it on to you because I just feel like that way maybe if you're having some of the same struggles, you're not going to necessarily have to stumble through and figure stuff out and ultimately, do all the stuff that I did, and that maybe I can make it easier for you. So, you know, whether it is, I notice this. Certainly, this is one of the things that I talk about sometimes around the new year when people make New Year's resolutions. I think this comes into play, which is why the New Year's resolutions often fail. But also just in our lives when we are, doing something. So if you are, it's something there's something that is just your heart's desire, or you want to make a change in your life, and whether it is big stuff like bucket list things like changing your career or going back to school or launching a business or moving to another country or running a marathon, or I don't know, big stuff, or whether it is smaller things but they would make you feel really good about yourself. Like whether it's, engaging in like an exercise program or doing a meditation practice or getting control of the way that you're eating or making sure that you're drinking water every day or having a gratitude list. Again, whatever, the what of it doesn't matter as much as what happens to us when we decide to embark on something that is has the potential to make us feel really good, to bring us joy, to elevate us, to make our experience in the world a better one. And whatever it might be, we often find ourselves in resistance and end up self sabotaging our efforts and ultimately not doing whatever it is that we wanted to do, or sort of screwing ourselves over in the process. Whether we miss deadlines or so now we can't do whatever it was, or we missed some sort of opportunity or a window that was open with it, or all of those kinds of things. um, it it's ourselves, it's us shooting ourselves in the foot because of our resistance. And so a lot of people think that the reason why we are in that resistance and what causes us to sabotage ourselves, I've heard this from a lot of people, is fear of failure. you know I'm too afraid that I'm going to crash and burn, and what are people going to think, and who am I to do this, and who do I think I am, and we do have those kinds of thoughts for sure. We have the ego mind, the conditioned self, that is like in our ear turned up to number 11, telling us that in fact we don't know what we're doing. We don't deserve to have or do or be any of the stuff that we're trying to have or do or be. We don't know what we're talking about. That's never going to work. We're too old. We're too fat. We're too stupid. We're too something, or we're not enough of something else to be able to either deserve or be worthy of whatever it is that we're trying to do. So we certainly have those those you know inner mean girl, inner bully, um, comments going on, that inner monologue for sure. But I don't believe that that is the main thing that causes us to be in resistance and to sabotage ourselves. I think that while that is going on, what I also think is really happening is that we're and this is coming directly from that ego mind, that conditioned self, that part of the mind that is coming from a place of fear, that is not our authentic selves, that is not coming from love, and it is not part of our divinity, which is really what our authentic selves are. We're an extension of the divine. We're an extension of the love of God. That's who we truly are. But this voice that's coming from this ego mind, this position of fear, and this sort of conditioned self wants to be the boss of us. It wants to be in charge of us. It wants power. It wants control of us. And so if you think about it, us being in fear, yeah, that is that the sort of like the obvious thing that that part of our mind is telling us. It's being, it's easy to see that, right? When we think about the voice of fear and all those things that I just talked about that's what that voice would be saying. And so yeah, that is coming from the ego mind. That is coming from that part of us that is conditioned by fear. But what I think is even more important to pay attention to is what is the ego's fear? What is threatening that part of our minds? What is threatening the ego and causing us, causing it to to you know sort of rise up and be more active and start the chatter, and that all that inner BS that it's saying to us is that actually it's threatened because what if we do those things? What if we sign up with to listen to that voice of love, that voice that is calling our hearts to go and do something or be something or engage in something or make a big move or be more visible or allow our light to shine or take on something that we have wanted to. And so really following love, following the call of love, following the call of our hearts. What would happen if we did that? We would not be listening to the voice of the ego. We would be listening to the call of our spirit. We would be listening to the voice, whatever you want to call it, the voice of love, the voice of God, the voice of the universe, our inner being, our inner self, our Holy Spirit, however, whatever word we have for it, is that aspect of us that wants us to be happy and wants us to, it just is encouraging us all the time to be in a state of joy and to trust that whatever is calling us, we're calling whatever is calling us. It's a mutual thing. And so I know that there have been many times in my life when I have been, wanting to do something or thinking about doing something or trying to, whatever it is, and just this big old like monologue of all these reasons why I can't do it, I shouldn't do it, and all these things that are trying to distract me. And that's really what that voice is it's trying to distract us from moving in the direction of love. It's trying to you know, really basically trying to talk us out of believing that we can be in joy and happy and, do something that is amazing and not listen to it. So, what has been really helpful for me, and this is really, the sort of the meat of what I wanted to talk about, is for us to recognize that we are much more susceptible to that voice, and listen and sort of falling prey to it and just deciding to it's probably right and we probably can't do this and we probably are going to fail and it probably isn't going to work out and who are we to do this and we're probably not worthy and we're probably not deserving and all of that bullshit. um, we are more likely to do that if we are disconnected from the divine. If we the more integrated that we are and the more that we have a dialogue going on with that aspect of ourselves that is an extension of God, that's who we really are. So, whether we call it our spirit or our inner being or the universe or the voice of love or whatever it is, the deeper and stronger connection that we have with that, and the more consistent that we are in being in in basically dialogue with it, then the more confident that we're going to be, and the more that we're going to feel that love and feel like we can listen to that voice and know that we're being supported, that we're being shored up, we are being held, we are we are so very loved, and that voice wants us to be in a place of joy, a place of appreciation, a place of abundance, a place of feeling like we really feeling the truth that we are the light of the world and that we have gifts to give. And how we know that, if there's something that we are called to do in the world and we have a strong feeling about that, it in my belief is that it's because we are meant to do that, and that, spirit is going to we everything that we do, we are either doing with the ego as our inner guide. I mean, if you can even call anything that the ego does guidance, which I don't, but so I say guide like in quotations, or with spirit as our guide. And so it's going to be a lot easier for us to hear that guidance and to follow it if we are in the habit of consistently being in a place where we're listening to it and when we're cultivating being able to do that. If you don't do that, it's not about like you have to do it or else spirit's going to be mad at you and it's not going to help you, or something like that. It's more like it's a still small voice, and it's subtle, and it's quiet, and it's very sure, and it's very loving, but it's not the loud, raucous, annoying, intrusive voice of the ego that is the voice of fear. So that's going to be louder. And so for us to be able to hear what the guidance is, we have to be able to practice it, in my opinion. And so, two things I think can be very, very helpful in this endeavor. One of them is, listening to your heart's desire. So being able to put yourself in a place of quiet every day so that you can, you're so that you literally can commune with your that part of your mind that is calling you toward those things that you want to do or want to engage in or want to have or experience or whatever it is. And so meditating, in my opinion, is super important. And I mean like a quiet meditation, 15 minutes, where you're just allowing yourself to hear that part of your mind that is speaking to you and allowing yourself to just when you feel like you're getting hooked into a thought, you just let go of it. You just let it go down the river, or you picture it as a cloud or whatever it is. And doing that every day puts you in that consistent place of being, so that when there is a nudge and when there is oh, what about this idea? Or, oh, somebody says something and you tune into it and you hear it as, oh, I think that that's for me. I think that that's guidance for me. It makes you more hyper aware. And because you have quieted the mind and allowed yourself to be in that space. And it doesn't mean when you're going into meditation that you're like listening and waiting for spirit to talk to you and why can't I hear it, and what's he well, what am I doing wrong, and all of that. It's none of that. It's literally practicing being in that quiet mode of just communing. And when you do that and you quiet the mind, it'll be later. Like I hardly ever get any kind of hits or guidance or, you know, this would be good for you to do this, or this would be a website to go to, or somebody's going to, listen to this person or whatever it is. Those things come later. When I'm doing that meditation, it's really just me trying to stay in the meditation. And being meditating is, it's not, I mean, it probably is for a lot of people who are really great at it, and maybe monks and things like that, where it's a whole, the entire 15 minutes they're just in the meditation and they never have another thought about anything and they're just quiet and receiving whatever. Mine isn't like that. Mine is in and out of thoughts. It's like watching a toddler at the beach. You're not really sitting quietly on the blanket, enjoying the sound of the surf and the sun and, closing your eyes, all that. If you had toddlers at the beach, you might be doing a little bit of that. And then you get up and you have to run after the toddler and bring it back to the blanket and make sure they don't run in the water or over to somebody else's, you know, situation or whatever. And so it's noticing that you're in a thought and bringing yourself back. And so whether you're counting your breaths or whether you're just staring at a candle or noticing your breath going in and out or whatever it is, trusting that as you make time for it, it's working for you and you're putting yourself in that place where you can hear what the guidance is. So that's one really important thing. And when I say spiritual practice, it is a practice. And that's a reason why it's called practice, is because you're practicing it every day. There's no such thing as not having enough time to do spiritual practice. It's a choice. But if you look at, would I rather be sabotaging myself and be in resistance to the things that I really want to do and accomplish and experience and be and have in my life and do and all of that, would I rather be actually doing those things and be in joy around them and having a blast and feeling great? And I mean, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to that. And so that is one thing to do. The other thing to do is the thoughts that you are that those thoughts that come through from from the ego and the conditioned self. There is a wonderful practice from A Course in Miracles, that is a forgiveness practice. That's one of the central teachings of A Course in Miracles. It is the central tool, actually, that A Course in Miracles gives us for undoing the ego and for putting ourselves in, shifting our perception from one of fear, which is what that ego voice is, to one of love. And that is forgiving whatever kinds of thoughts we are having, whether they are thoughts that are attacking or condemning or judgmental toward another person, or whether they are toward ourselves. Either way, letting go of those thoughts and forgiving ourselves for having them, and and allowing ourselves to give the situation over to spirit and ask to see the situation differently and releasing it to be healed. But forgiving ourselves for our judgmental thoughts, again, whether they are being directed at another person or ourselves, ultimately it doesn't matter because everyone else is part of us anyway. We are all one in spirit. And so forgiving another person is forgiving ourselves and vice versa. But so being able to go into meditation every day, and then when you do notice, and I'm not talking about doing the forgiveness practice if you notice that you're having those thoughts while you're meditating, don't interrupt your meditation to do that. But that's not really the time that you're going to have those judgmental thoughts so much. It's going to be when you are thinking about doing something that is going to be very helpful to you or very fun for you to do or bring you so much joy and so much, so much happiness and so much exuberance and exhilaration and all those things. That's when and especially when you're taking action toward it, that's when that voice is likely to come in and negate you and tell you all the reasons why you're not going to be able to have what you want, do what you want, be what you want, and whatever. And the truth is that if you know who you really are, and when I talk about that, what I mean is knowing who you really are from a Course in Miracles perspective is knowing that you are, as I said earlier, a son, that you are an extension of the love of God. Uh, a son of God, a daughter of God, it doesn't matter because there's no gender in spirit anyway. So you could call it whatever feels comfortable to you, but you are literally the light of God. That's who you are. That is your identity. And what lights you up, what lights all of us up, what our true function is here as the light of the world, the light of God, the light of spirit is joy. Joy and happiness are our function. That is one of the lessons in A Course in Miracles is happiness is my only function. And I mean, yeah, I'm down with it. My function in the world is literally to be happy. Okay, where do I sign? Right? And so for us to be happy, we have to understand that that is who we are. That's what we're meant. We are meant to be in joy. And you can't be in joy if you are harboring judgmental and critical and condemning, crappy thoughts. And those are what the Course would call those attack thoughts, right? And if you're harboring attack thoughts, that is counterintuitive and it's the absolute opposite of being in joy. So though you can't have any of those thoughts going on. So when you notice that you have thoughts like that, that is the time to practice that kind of forgiveness that I talked about. It is not forgiving other people for doing something bad. That's not even what we're talking about. What we're talking about is forgiving our own perception and our own thoughts about whatever our thoughts are and whatever our perception is about what anybody has ever said or done. Our job is to forgive it. And that is a function of ours too. That's one of the ways that we get to joy. So meditating every day, making time, and you get up. If you have to get up early in the morning, then you get up an hour earlier, and you can adapt to anything. If I told you that you were going to get $1 million if you got up earlier, an hour earlier every day, you would do it. So what you're going to get instead, in my mind, is worth more than $1 million, because you're going to put yourself in a position of having peace of mind and having joy and creating uh, an experience of life here in this illusory world that you love. And when you are in a place where you are following the guidance, because that's what you will be getting, you know, when you sit quietly like that, and then later you will be getting guidance. You will be, whether it's a website that gets put in front of you on a search engine, or something that pops up on social media, or somebody says something to you, or a book gets recommended, or there's a podcast, or you just have a thought and you're like, oh, wow, that's a good idea. And you just know that that thought did not come from you sitting around and like concentrating really hard and trying to think about how you could make yourself the most happy. It just, or that how you could pursue something that you already know you want to do. And so thinking is really overrated. It's really more about allowing yourself to just let the guidance come to you. So, that's really what I wanted to talk to you about in with regard to this topic, so that when you find yourself, self-sabotaging, and you got to get really good at paying attention and seeing when you're doing that. Like for myself, I can tell, when I was thinking about going to grad school to become a therapist, or when I was becoming a coach and I was becoming a minister, and I'm doing different things that are things that I really did want to do, but then I found all these ways of distracting myself. I was never even a Facebook person, but all of a sudden I was all interested in Facebook and cleaning my office and sorting my paper clips and just doing. So when you find yourself doing things that are not in alignment with the things that you really do want to do, and going in the direction or whatever, and you find yourself being distracted, just know that this is part of the ego's game. And so what would I be doing right now if I wasn't scrolling on my phone? Is there something that I would be doing? Well, for one thing, you could be meditating. So you forgive yourself for doing all your distraction activities, and you forgive, you so that you return yourself to the innocence of who you really are, and you just give it to spirit, and you say, just take this away from me, just take this distraction away from me, and just I want to hear. I want to hear what you're really telling me. There's a part in the Course in Miracles that says, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? And to whom? And I think that that's a wonderful place to start. You could say that before you go into your meditation, and then just as follow the quiet meditation, and you just, there are amazing things that will come to you in all different ways, because spirit is trying to speak to you in whatever way that he can, and he can, she can, they can, however they spirit answers to all pronouns. And so it will utilize whatever is at its disposal to be able to communicate with you and get your attention. Um, so that's it. So you don't have to sabotage yourself, and you can resist your resistance, because you can trust that it's not, nobody's trying to communicate with you that you should be in resistance. If you shouldn't be doing something, then when you are actually doing doing your activities toward it, and heading in the direction of it, if the door after door after door after door is closed, then it probably isn't what you're supposed to be doing. But that's not self-sabotage and that's not resistance. Um, so I so I am I want to switch tracks here for a second, and I am going to do Q&A in a little bit. So I do see some questions coming through here, and I will address them. And I'm going to do that in like the last 15 minutes of the call. But right now, I want to switch tracks a little bit because one of the things that happens when we are in a place of self-sabotage and all of those things that I talked about, all those kind of inner bully commentary, inner monologue, negative talk that's happening is all a story. And that's really what all of our negative self-talk and our negative thoughts and self-limiting, self-critical, as well as critical of others. But particularly with regard to ourselves, all of that chatter and all of the reasons that we come up with why we can't have what we want, we can't do what we want, we can't do the big thing, we can't do the bucket list, we can't stick to an exercise program, we can't, make ourselves healthy, we can't have a satisfying love relationship, we can't be at peace, whatever the why we all the stuff that we say that we can't do is a story that we're telling ourselves. And our stories come from all kinds of places. We may have had some experience in our lives or many experiences in our lives that have caused us to believe something is true about ourselves or to believe that we can't do something or that we're too something or we're not enough something else or it's just not that's just not in the cards for me. It's just not it's just not available to me. I just can't have that because I don't have this or that and I don't have enough of this or I have too much of that or I'm not whatever. It's a story. And the thing is the way that the world works is that whatever you believe. So if you have chronic thoughts, so thoughts that you think over and over and over again, which are like those thoughts that I just talked about. Those are the kind of thoughts that we tend to think over and over again, listening to that inner critic, that voice of the ego, the conditioned self. When we think those thoughts over and over and over again, they form a belief. That's all a belief is a constellation of chronic thoughts that we're having. And when we form a belief, then we have an expectation that comes from the belief that this is the way that things are going to go for me. And the way that this world works energetically is that whatever we are holding in that kind of a belief thought pattern is going to vibrationally, energetically govern what we allow to come to us. So the story is going to play out to be true. I can't have a satisfying love relationship because my parents had a train wreck of a marriage and they fought all the time. And that's what I always saw. And nobody ever showed me how to have a healthy relationship. And so I'm just not capable of it because every time I get into one, I act exactly like my mother or, whatever it is. And or that's one story, or another story is um I don't seem to be able to have a satisfying relationship because everybody that I attract turns out to be a jerk. And it's their fault and it's got nothing to do with me. But it does because your underlying beliefs are putting you in an energy field where you are attracting people who are going to reflect to you what you believe to be true about yourself. And so if people are being mean to you or if people are acting like jerks or whatever, you're part of that is not to blame them and have those attacking thoughts that we talked about earlier, but rather to examine what you believe to be true about yourself and how people in the outside world are reflecting whatever inner story you have going on, because that is how the world works energetically, is that people and circumstances and experiences are attracted into our energy field, into whatever, by the vibration that we're holding. And so if the vibration that we are holding is a negative vibration that is related to something about ourselves not being enough, or not being worthy, or not deserving, or having something wrong with us, that, or not being lovable, or not being good enough, I mean, I could go on and on. That is that is the frequency at which we are going to attract whatever it is that we're attracting. And so if your life is not reflecting what you want, it's because of the story that you're telling yourself. And so I have a brand new program that I am creating, and I'm so excited about it. I've never this is the first program that I've ever created live. And so I'm inviting you guys to sign up for it, because what will happen is, as I'm creating the program, then after it's all over, those of you who have purchased it will have lifetime access to it when it becomes an actual recorded program. But it's going to be a live program first. So there's going to be a link to it that's going to be on the screen. There's going to be a link to it in the chat, and it'll be on the screen in the replay of this live as well. And so it's called, the new program is called Unstory Yourself. Be the hero, not the victim of your life. And I was so inspired to create it, basically because I have unstoried myself from so many things that I believed in my life. And my life is so different as a result of that. And I've also worked with so many people in my coaching practice and in my psychotherapy practice, helping other people to rewrite and reauthor their stories and revise the story that they had going of their lives, so that they can have a different experience, so they can put themselves in a different energy field, in a different frequency, in a different vibration, and then have their world reflect what their new beliefs are. Because just because somebody told us something, or just because somebody gave us a message, sometimes people didn't straight up tell us those things. They just may have had uh, may have had an expression, a facial expression, their body language, or they may have straight up told us something was true about us that is not. We don't have to believe anything about ourselves that anybody has ever said. It's all a story. And in this course that I'm doing, so it's 6 weeks, and it's 90 minute sessions of live coaching. So for 6 weeks, we're going to have one session a week on Tuesday nights from 6 to 7:30, where I do live I do teaching for like half of the time, and then we do live coaching for half the time. And it's the way that I love to work. I love connecting with live audiences. I love talking back and forth with you guys, and it's I'm so passionate about it, and particularly this topic, because it affects so many of us, and it's just totally unnecessary. We don't there's no reason for it. But in this course, I will go into the backstory of why we have these stories, why we have this ego mind, what the original story was in the first place that told us that we were guilty and unworthy and undeserving and not good enough and basically a piece of shit. And so I go into that just to kind of give you context of, and this is coming from A Course in Miracles, um, context for why we have that propensity in the first place to have that negative bias about ourselves. It's not because of anything our parents did or said. It's not because of anything that has happened to us in this life. It looks like that's what it is, but basically, everything that happens seems to happen to us that feels negative to us is a representation of that first thing that we think happened to us that told us that we weren't good enough. And so I go into that um, in greater detail in this course. So I'm super, super, super excited about it. I can't wait. Oh yeah. And so I guess I should tell you the price of it. So when the recording is done and it is an evergreen program later after I've done all of the 6 weeks of coaching for it, it will be sold at $9.97. But what I'm doing with the people that are premiering the program with me, and we're creating it as we go. It's called a beta membership, and so you get the program for half the price. So you get it for $4.97. Actually, I don't know that that's half, but it's $4.97 instead of $9.97. I think that's close to half, and that gives you 6 weeks of 90 minutes of group coaching. And all of the replays, and then lifetime access to the program itself once it is created later on. So I think it's I think it's a great deal. I think it would be a lot of fun. I hope that you will join me in it. I think it will be so great. And I'm also just geeked about the fact that it's the first time that I'm creating a program live with people, and not with modules that have been that I've recorded previously. So it's happening, like in the moment and present and all of that. And I just think it's great. And just in case you're wondering about it, anyone who is in that program with me will be nobody will be in the recorded program. Nobody's face will be on it. I will be the only person on it, but I will have the questions. When I do the Q&A at the end of every session, I will be repeating the questions so that I can have a Q&A period, but you won't be featured on it. So in case you are worried about that, that's just not even going to be an issue. Um, so I'm really excited. The link is on the screen, coachkellyrussell.com//unstory. And you can read all about it. There's a video over there of me talking about it a little bit and just kind of, giving you more information about it and sort of um, fleshing it out for you in terms of how we story ourselves and how we hold ourselves back so much in life from things that we want to do and want to be and want to have. It's a way of sabotaging ourselves, and that's why it's so related to the topic that I was speaking about earlier today, and how we can just really allow ourselves to move toward joy, to be embodied by love, to allow that divine spirit that we are as an extension of love, as an extension of God, or whatever your name is for it, to flow through us. And when we allow that, when we let ourselves be joy, and we allow ourselves to be taken over by that exhilaration and that exuberance, we allow ourselves to be completely in satisfaction and fulfillment. We trust that all is well, that all is working out for us. And so that is one more thing that I want to say in this last minute, is that one of the most important things that you can do every day, all day long, in order for you to see what you desire to flow into your life and to show up and to manifest and to come into this reality or this world of form, is it's not so much stuff about it's important for you to have the desire, and it's important for you to know what the desire is for when you think about things that you want to do and be and have and so forth, to be able to picture yourself doing those things and having those things, and all of that is important. But the most important thing is, and the thing that will speed you along on your way and put you in a place of joy so much faster is literally feeling good. Finding something to feel good about as much as possible. That will decrease your resistance. And so it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's related to the goal that you have or the thing that you desire. It's raising your vibration by putting you in a place of joy because you're feeling good. And it doesn't matter what you're feeling good about. So, whatever you can find in whatever vibration you're finding yourself in to feel better, better might not even be good, but it's better. And you work your way up the emotional scale until you actually feel good. So, that's really, really important. So, okay, so I said I was going to do Q&A for the last 15 minutes or so. So I can't even believe we're in the last 15 minutes of this call. It always, I know people have heard me say this. It's like I got picked up by friendly aliens and then like put down like 45 minutes later, and I can't believe the time has gone by. But I'm just going to go through some of the questions here that I see on the screen. So I'm going to just back up my chat a little bit here so that I can see. Okay, let me see. Can we use guided meditation or just count our breath? For the purpose that I'm talking about, definitely if you want to have, um, if during your spiritual practice, I know that I have a guided meditation that several people use, that is free to be used, and it's on my website and so forth. And that is a guided meditation. And while I think that can be really helpful in actually kind of giving your day over to spirit, because that's part of what I do in my spiritual practice. You don't have to do that, but it's one of the things that I do. That meditation is really good for that, or any other guided meditation that you might be doing can be very good for calming yourself down and all of that. But my belief is that for putting yourself in that place where you literally are really just in quiet communion with spirit, with your inner being, with that voice for God, or however you call it, I think the silent meditation is actually the most effective. So I would say a guided meditation is better than no meditation. So if that's the way that you have to do it, or else you can't meditate, then by all means, it'll quiet your mind better than watching the news or driving in traffic or whatever. But if you can give yourself that 15 minutes and then do whatever else you want to do for spiritual practice. I do the quiet meditation, but I also read a lesson from the Course in Miracles. I read a little bit from the text of the book. I do my own, that meditation that is the guided meditation, that's kind of giving my day over to spirit and kind of setting my day up like that. I do all of that in my spiritual practice. So I probably spend about an hour, but you got to do whatever you're going to do and whatever's going to work for you. But I hope that answers your question, Ken. And let's see. I hear from Loves to Run. I'm going within more and noticing that I have less fear. Exactly. That is one of the awesome benefits, is that when you do that communing with spirit, you are going to have less fear when you go within more, because you are going to be listening to the voice of love instead of the voice of fear. And so the voice of love is going to be co-creating with you, whereas the voice of fear wants to be the boss of you and wants to control you. And so let's see, then let's see. Not working for in 35 years, hard to surrender and trust that I'm cared for like a child, trusting a caregiver for food and shelter and safety. Absolutely. And I don't know, what the story is that you have going on around not working in 35 years, but surrendering and trusting that you're cared for, in the way that children trust that they're going to be cared for, and that they are going to be cared for by somebody. And you are always cared for. You're always guided. You are always beloved beyond your ability to be able to even fathom. And that part of the way that you are guided in the world of form itself is through those messages that you get, that guidance you get, that is why it's so important. Because if you just try to think your way out of it and you just try to figure out what to do and go with logic and think about things the way that the human brain is basically just part of the body. The mind is telling the brain how to operate. The brain's not doing anything of its own accord. And so the brain is going to be either listening to the conditioned self, the ego, or it's going to be listening to the voice of love, depending on what your choice is. And so when you quiet your mind like that and you allow the voice of love to come into your mind and speak through you, you're going to have divine ideas and inspirations and aha moments. And, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I know what could be helpful. It's not going to be coming from you. It's certainly not going to be coming from your brain. It's going to be coming from the voice of love, which is going to guide you to how you're going to be cared for. So just know that that's the way that that's going to happen. Let me see. Love you and your teaching. Thank you so much, Sandy. So good to see you here. Okay, so yep, so I don't see, I'm not seeing any more questions. So I do invite you that if you've got questions in there, to feel free to post them, because I am here to do Q&A right now, whether you've got questions over any of the content that I talked about in the teaching portion, or whether you have questions about the program that I'm offering, the new Unstory Yourself, Be the Hero, Not the Victim of Your Life. I would love to answer them, since that's what I'm here to do. And I will say that I was speaking to somebody earlier about the program, and the question came up of, is there financing for the program, for the 497? And while I am not offering financing for it, I will tell you that PayPal, whether you use PayPal or not, PayPal credit specifically offers financing, 0% financing for 6 months on new purchases. And so if you end up, wanting to go through something like PayPal, that would be something that I'm imagining might be able to work for you. Okay, so then I have another question here. Before the meditation session, should we put ourselves in joy? Listen to music, petting my dog, work out with weights? Yeah, why not? I mean, here's the thing. Your best time to meditate is actually first thing in the morning, because you sort of have the clean slate at that time, and the world hasn't started yet to work itself on your mind. And so if you want to do some of that, like, briefly in the morning before you go into your meditation, that's my biggest suggestion, is doing it in the morning. But yeah, man, having your dog there, petting your dog, having your dog in the chair with you, or sitting up in bed with you, or whatever, I probably wouldn't do the working out thing, just because, I mean, while working out is great and doing exercise is great, and a lot of people do consider that a kind of a meditation, I just think sort of sitting quietly and allowing yourself to just be quiet rather than moving is really what I'm talking about when I'm talking about that particular part of the meditation. We're only talking about 15 minutes. So listening to music, if you're going to listen to music during, I really am suggesting the silent meditation, but if you are going to listen to music, I would say something that is only instrumental and doesn't have a lot of changes in it, just because you're not wanting your mind to be distracted. And certainly not lyrics, because lyrics are just like planting thoughts in your mind. So yeah, you're welcome. So yeah, any other questions? I love doing this so much, and I could talk for hours, and I know people that know me I probably think that I do talk for hours about this stuff, because everything is a story, right? And we've got stories going about everything. So I have a psychotherapy practice too, and a coaching practice, as I mentioned, and I'm always asking people, okay, so what's the story that you've got going here? Or it sounds like this is the story that you have going. Or, we get a story going about things. And the thing is, if we're not conscious that it's a story, the ego mind tends to present things to us in it, to us internally like they're facts. That's the thing, is that so it'll say things like you're this, you're that, you can't do that. You aren't enough of this. You're not good enough for that. You're not smart enough for that. You're not successful enough for that. You could never accomplish that. You'll crash and burn if you try to do that. You're not fit enough, or but it presents those shitty thoughts like they're facts, and they're not facts. They're literally just thoughts, and they're thoughts that are coming from a part of our mind that is completely in fear. And the ego's biggest fear, and I'll just say it one more time, is that it will lose our allegiance to it because we will listen to a different voice, which is what I'm suggesting that you do, is listen to the voice of love. And so changing your story from one of fear to one of love, where you're the hero and not the victim, is literally changing your life. So, um, I see what you're saying. Okay, to add to your question about before the meditation session, should you listen to music or whatever to put you in a good mood prior? Well, again, I will say absolutely to be in a great mood. It's a wonderful idea, but I also do suggest that this is something that you do very shortly after you wake up in the morning. So, um, that's my thought about it. But if you let's say this, if you aren't able to do that, if you're not able to go right first thing in the morning to do your meditation because for whatever reason you have much more time at the end of the day, then I would say at the end of the day, it probably really serves you even more to do something like that to put you in a good mood. If you have been out in the day and um, been exposed to the thoughts and the thinking and the all the chaos and all the stuff of the world, it is probably a good idea to take a few minutes and do something like that just to kind of settle yourself rather than waking up in the morning and having that kind of you know fresh sort of fresh slate. So yeah, I get you. I hear you there. Okay, any other questions? Well, you've got the link there. And so thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate that you've been with me, and it's just been awesome seeing you guys here. And I, I love being able to do this teaching with you. Like I said, it's my passion. It's the thing that I have been drawn to so strongly, and that I have had so many, um, you know, obstacle thoughts in my mind, and so much pushback from that ego part of my own mind. I can tell you it's one of the things that has allowed me to be able to come a lot further than I once thought that I was going to be able to, is doing all the things that I was teaching about today. So I feel like I'm a sort of an example of what I've been talking about, and you can absolutely do that too. So thank you so much for having been here, and be sure and check out the Unstory Yourself program. And also, if you like these live teachings, I'm going to be here again on Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock. And I'm going to be doing, oh gosh, what in the hell am I coaching? What am I talking about on Wednesday evening? Trust. And it is called In Fear We Trust, but love is a better investment. And because I know a lot of people that I talk to talk about having trust issues. And so I'm going to talk about why we have them and what we can do about, and what causes us to take a position in the world where we don't trust people, we think people are going to screw us over and all of that. And some of the same stuff that I talked about tonight is going to apply there. And then what can we do about that, and how we can place ourselves in a position of trusting versus not trusting. So I hope you can join me then at 8 o'clock on Wednesday, the 24th this week. So thanks again so much for being here. I love you so much. And I hope to see you in Unstory Yourself. Be the hero, not the victim of your life. Thank you so much. Namaste.